Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Tech Effect. To celebrate World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, which is annually recognized on May 17th, I want to explore the effect of technology. I know that for me, technology has definitely shaped and changed my life, but I want to dig deeper and see more of its impact. Today, I've gathered 4 women who made incredible strides towards making technology accessible and have created powerful projects using digital tools. So first, just a bit about me. Hi, my name is Hannah, and I'm a high school student living in Toronto. I'm part of a robotics team, and it's a big part of my life, and is what makes me want to be an engineer, looking into pursuing that in post-secondary. I'm her VOLUTION ambassador, and throughout my years in their other programs, such as Go STEM and Stemming Up, I've learned that I really want to be a role model for other Asian and queer people in STEM. I'm just very excited to be here, and I also love being able to contribute to VOLUTION as an ambassador because it really kind of makes my position a bit more official, and I can spread their message in a more effective way. Just to give some context as to what this day is, World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, otherwise known as WTISD, is celebrated mainly because of 2 events. The first is the founding of the International Telecommunication Union on May 17th in 1969, and May 17th is also the anniversary of the signing of the first International Telegraph Convention in 1865. This date also ties into 2 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and those are number 9, industry innovation infrastructure, as it's definitely contributing to how the world's technological industry, how it affects everyone else. And second is 17, partnership for the goals, which as is a world global day, it's how we can connect other parts of the world and other countries through technology. Okay, so the effective technology panel is made up of 4, as I mentioned, very impressive women. The first is Gira Chowda, a grade 12 student going into computer science at York University this September, and is an incoming dev degree student. She is the founder of Cracking the Code, an initiative where she tries to eliminate barriers for youth who want to learn how to code and takes them along her programming journey. She is a 2022 Ontario NCWIT Award recipient for involvement in the tech space and is the chair of the Ambassador Committee for VOLUTION. Gira, do you want to wave for everyone? Next is Sana Syed, who is currently working as a production engineer at Shopify, where she designs, maintains, and builds IT infrastructure. She just finished her degree in computer science at Carleton University and completed the dev degree program. She's an advocate for women in STEM and has been part of VOLUTION since 2018 as a participant in the Stemming Up program and as a coordinator, mentor, and speaker. Next, from Sky's the Limit, which is a nonprofit an organization founded in 2003 that gives refurbished computers to youth whose parents and guardians might not otherwise be able to afford them. So today we have Laura Tavares, who is the founder and current board chair of the award-winning nonprofit. Her vision and Sky's Limit's mandate are to provide youth with access to computers, online resources, and technology. The youth will be given the potential for an enhanced success and a limitless window of opportunities to do whatever and be whoever they dream of becoming. Sky's the Limit has placed almost 5,000 computers to date in the hands of these youth. Finally, we have Carolyn McIntosh, who's been working with Sky's Limit since 2010. She began as a project coordinator and has worked her way to eventually taking over as executive director in 2015. Throughout her years with STL, she's been able to live her passion in advocating for under-resourced youth and to help bridge the digital divide in the GTA. Together with Laura and the BOD, Caroline, along with STL, have contributing to placing those 5,000 computers. Okay, so now we're going to start the panel. And the first question is, why is technology important to you? Gira, would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Why is technology important to me? Well, ever since I've grown up, I've always had a liking towards technology. Don't really know what it was, but I would be the tech rep in a school in elementary or middle school. It was kind of like the thing that I kind of knew how to do because I grew up with technology, kind of just fixing simple problems. And I also liked the effect I had on people because I would be able to solve something. I would be like, wow. And, I just felt good about it. I also love technology because computer science and coding is something that's very dear to me. I love coding on my side times and just technology as well. It's something that just has always been in my life and has affected my life as well.
Cool, thank you. We will come back to your computer science journey soon because I do want to be able to, for you to talk more about that because I think it's really, really interesting. So now, would you like to go next?
Yeah, honestly, similar to Gira, like growing up, I'm the youngest in my family. So when we got our first desktop, like I was like on it all the time, and my parents kind of like nicknamed me as like the resourceful one in my house. Like I would like pull things apart and like put them back together. So honestly, technology has like always been in my life. It's made, as I have grown older, it's definitely made it easier sometimes. And like my day-to-day activities are also sometimes harder. But overall, I also just love the impact that it has on like all of the people, and especially working in tech, I get to see that firsthand. Yeah, technology has been super important.
I'm excited to learn more about your journey towards Shopify and sort of where you are right now. Laura, could you speak about why technology is important to you?
Sure. I just wanted to say thank you, Hannah. This is fantastic. So thank you for including us today. My answer is very straightforward. I believe that the internet is a critical resource and it should be available to all, and it's not. So that's what is the most important thing to me and what drives my work personally.
Thank you. And Caroline?
Yeah. So again, thank you for having us, Hannah. Technology is important to me because I feel like I've sort of grown up with it. I was in school at a time when it wasn't a part of education. You were still handwriting essays, handwriting things, researching in a library, and then it shifted and suddenly I had to put in my work on a computer. And I was privileged enough to have a computer when I needed one and to do my work and to leave school and get to go on about my merry way. And I did see people have to hang behind and use if the school had a computer in their library. And the way that the world has shifted and grown with technology, and I've been privileged to be able to just keep up with it and to see how it started to divide, obviously from the digital divide, society and the haves and the have-nots. And it became important to me to see that in a world that's based around technology, it simply seems an unjust and sort of against a human right to have those that don't have access to technology and those that do.
Thank you. I'm really excited to learn more about the digital divide, especially from those from Sky's the Limit, just because I've definitely been affected by it. And I've been lucky enough to have received a computer from an organization like yours that's allowed me to do all that I've been able to do, including this very meeting. So the next question is very similar to the first one, and just tying more into how it's impacted your life, as I think you've all briefly mentioned, but I want to learn more about. Laura, would you like to start?
Sure. Gosh, in so many ways, but I'd say most importantly, it was the impetus, to create Sky's the Limit. And the idea behind Sky's the Limit was to enable everyone to have access to the opportunities that they might not have even known existed. And when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a computer. Just to put it in context, I'm 52 this year. So I didn't know what an email message was until first year university. Computers were just gigantic, big machines and warehouses for business purposes. There wasn't such thing as a personal computer, certainly not a laptop. Yeah, so my father worked in that industry, and I had a desktop computer, one of the very first ones in our home. And I think I just had this assumption that, there's this amazing tool. I'm trying to figure out how to use it. And I just had this assumption that everybody must have this. And that my dad quickly educated me. And I realized that not only did not everyone in our community have it, that a lot of people that look like me don't have it. And then as I got older and finished my high school career or education and then went off to university, I noticed that more and more. And yeah, so that access to technology, I think at a young age, and then seeing the disparity in the next couple of years of who was getting access and who wasn't, was really a driving force, and probably the biggest driving force, certainly the biggest driving force in my professional life, but also in my personal life, because it aligns with my values of being of service. And it's just a great way for me to channel that passion for wanting to be of service and that passion for creating access to technology. And voila, sky's the limit.
Amazing, thank you. So now, would you want to speak about how technology has impacted your life?
Yeah, I've known technology for like basically all my life. I remember being like 6 or 7 and my mom teaching me how to type because we were starting to do that in school. So I learned how to type at a really young age. And from there, like my whole like education and career, like I've used school. Even when the pandemic happened, it was definitely like everything was virtual. So I was like using my computer every day between work and school. But also technology has helped me kind of keep in touch with like my family back home. I think that is definitely super important because I have a bunch of family in India, and mainly I only have a couple of cousins here, so like that's a part of technology. But overall, it's just impacted basically everything that I do involves technology.
Oh, thank you. Kira?
Yeah, so for me personally, once again, technology's been around since I was born. Education, everything surrounding technology, but something that it did open up the pathway for computer science and everything, and that already existed before, but it became more accessible to me. Thankfully, I was blessed to be able to have, Wi-Fi or a laptop, something where I could learn. And actually that brings me to my connection to HER, but I'll save that till later. But being able to learn how to code on my own in my house with the resources I have, unlimited, online, free, that was something where I could actually hone in on a skill that I have and do it separately from my high school education. And that's what eventually led me to, excel in coding and be able to apply to multiple programs and dev degree at Shopify.
Oh, thank you. And Caroline?
Technology has impacted my life in many ways, but I would say in a most recent capacity, it has allowed me to work online. I mean, sky's the limit, and through the pandemic, and to continue doing our work and be able to do that. I don't live in the city anymore. I have a family and I've moved to a small country town where my children can kind of run free and I can still work and be involved and connected to the city by having access to technology. And I think that's presently the biggest impact, and definitely, certainly growing up, and to date myself just as Laura did. I mean, I'm 38 years old. I do remember in school when it was very frowned upon to use computers for work, and then it shifted and now you have to. And again, being a part of that, many stages of my life have been impacted, but most recently it's just opened up a whole new world for my family and I.
Wow, I think it's really interesting, at least from my perspective, because I, like Kira and Sanaa, have always been able to use technology. I'm very privileged in that aspect. I don't know, have access to a computer and had a phone that I could use. But hearing the beginnings and not having that access, or not existing in the first place, as compared to my entire high school, I had to do everything on my computer, mainly because of the pandemic, but also just, as I said, the shift towards doing everything virtually. Okay, the last question that is mainly for everyone, or for this section, is what is your connection to HER? Because of course this is a HER event. I'd like to know how you came into contact with this really, really cool organization. So Kira, would you like to start?
Yeah, so grade 9, I think. This is like right before COVID hit. I went to a STEM fair and I found Join the HER at a booth. I signed up, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna learn more about computer science. So I ended up joining the program, and I ended up joining Stemming Up, which was one of the best programs I've ever been to. I learned how to code Python and Java script, and not only that, the connections that I could make were amazing, but it was also, this is the thing that I was going to connect it back to for technology. HER and Shopify gave me a laptop, and in the beginning of grade 9, like I had this old HP laptop that like ran, Adobe Reader and then would crash. And then they were able to give me the laptop, and I was actually able to learn throughout the pandemic and be online and be able to join meetings and do virtual things. Otherwise, I don't even want to imagine where I was going to be without this program. But continuing on, joining the youth committee and being able to be the chair of the ambassador committee, I just got to learn more and more and more. And that's all started with just technology and meeting everyone.
Thank you. It's very cool. I think I've had not a similar path, but I think I'm getting there. I need a little bit more time. Caroline, would you like to describe, I don't know, maybe more of STL and instead of you personally, because I think that's been your main connection.
Yes, well, personally and STL, I'm smiling so much because I remember it so vividly, and it was 2016, and I was super just revved up that summer to find new partners and new missions, and I get this email from Doina explaining sort of the very early stages of her and this vision of her VOLUTION, and I was, let's get together. Yes, girl power. Let's hear about this. And we sat down, and instantly I just felt so connected to her. First of all, what a lovely human. And we shared the same passion to advocate for under-resourced youth, and then specifically for females, and just everything about it felt so right. And I remember calling Lara and coming to the board and saying, yes, we have got to partner. We've got to support. And then instantly, I mean, with her like fabulous skills and such a wonderful mission, it just grew and grew and grew. And to be partnered with you in any way is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's the whole reason that I know that I feel passionate about it. And I know that Lara feels the same for Sky's the Limit to work with such an important organization.
Oh, that's so cool. Sna, would you want to talk about your path with VOLUTION?
Yeah, so it started in 2017. I was actually in the WISE program at U of T. And then from there, I saw them post about stemming up. And I remember I like clicked the link, and I was a couple of days late, and I had saw like I passed the deadline. So then I emailed Doina, and I was like, I passed the deadline, but can I still apply? And then she put me on the wait list, and she was like, yeah, go ahead apply. I think I like nabbed like the last spot of the first ever stemming up cohort. And it's crazy to me how that moment has been so pivotal, because like I feel like where I am today, I definitely will like say it's all thanks to Doina. Because that summer, like this is the summer before grade 12, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into like health sciences, life sciences like my sister, like you know, I really like chemistry and biology and physics. And then after that program, I remember having a talk with Doina, and she was like, oh, like this was like back when Stemming Up had like exams and stuff. And so after the exam, she was like, oh, like you did really well, like, you know, what about software engineering or computer science? And then that's kind of when like my brain started like thinking like I should do it, like I take it as an elective at school. So I was in the program in 2018, and since then I've kind of helped out with some of the curriculum for Stemming Up a couple of years ago. I've come back as a speaker and a mentor. Point on being a speaker, I definitely was like really shy before I joined Stemming Up, and now I'm like actually doing public speaking, and I enjoy it. And I go out to some conferences, and I saw Hannah and Gira in person for the first time at CanQuick, the Canadian Women in Computing conference last October. And yeah, truly owe it all to Doina, because I wouldn't be here without her. That's my connection.
Amazing. And finally, Lara.
I think Caroline summed it all up. I would just add that, you know, we're out there during the pandemic, certainly, and even post-pandemic, as we exit the pandemic, fundraising has been really, really challenging. And as I think everybody in our sector knows, and it's like vitally important for us to have program partners that are just these well-oiled machines that have great programming, and they're helping all of their participants achieve their goals, so that we can really focus on getting the technology to give to them. So when we started off 20 years ago, I think we had a much more hands-on approach. It was all new. We're getting the technology. We're kind of working with program partners to figure out how that technology would sync with their programming. So an organization like VOLUTION is a perfect fit. So when these kind of organizations come along, we're just so grateful because it's so seamless and it's exactly the population that we want to serve. And it's just, yeah, we're just very, very grateful to be partnered with Doina and VOLUTION.
Yeah, I think I know, I can definitely talk about the impact, and I've felt the impact, and I'm fairly sure that everyone else who's, I don't know, received a computer from STL for VOLUTION programs is probably very happy. Okay, so for Laura and Caroline, why did you decide to start or work for Sky's the Limit? Kind of building on what you said about seeing that digital divide and feeling that passion to try to bridge it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I kind of already answered that question. I would add that when I thought that this is what I want to do, this is kind of my niche, I want to get technology to students that don't have access, I thought, well, I can't be the first one that thought of this. I'm going to go help people who are already doing it. So my intention in the beginning was just to volunteer back in like 2002, 2003. And I couldn't find anyone that was doing it. There was one guy in his garage in Scarborough that was refurbishing maybe 6-7 laptops a month and just handing them out to kids in the neighborhood. But there wasn't anybody doing anything that looks like what we're doing now. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. Let me give this a try. And I lucked out and partnered with Reboot Canada for those first several years. So they took care of the refurbishing part. And then it was just to go out and try to find the funding and the right program partners and just get it up and running. And I thought I would give it 3 years and see if it was growing and if it was really making a meaningful impact. And then after, I would say less than a year, maybe the first 9 months after that first batch of computers went to those pathway students, I knew that I was on to something. So that's where it came from. Yeah, that was the origin. Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. And I think it's very, like, I don't know if you feel it's rewarding, but I feel like it's very rewarding to be able to visually like kind of see that sort of impact and really, I don't know, fill that niche that you thought had already been filled, but clearly had not. So
Yeah.
Caroline, is there
If
anything?
I can just add something, you just made me think of something, if you don't mind, if I just.
Oh, go ahead. I'd love to hear
And
it.
during those early days, like I was physically handing each individual desktop, keyboard, mouse, wires, cables, everything to each individual recipient. So it was also that what you're talking about, like very, very, very gratifying, because I got to meet each recipient one after the other and have form those kind of relationships and watch them over time. Now it's been over 20 years and we've placed almost 5,000 computers. So certainly we rely on our program partners to maintain that connection, but there's also that level of involvement that I'll always cherish. It was beautiful.
It's wonderful. Caroline, would you want to add anything? Because I believe you started as a program coordinator, but now kind of have moved up a bit. And so you've definitely grown, of course, within STL.
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated from my undergrad in 2008, and I was in Toronto in 2010 doing post-grad work, specifically in nonprofit development and management. And I was trying to figure out, where I would want to work and give back. And actually, my father had a history in working on some nonprofit boards and he knew of Sky's the Limit. He knew of Lara, and he had said, I think you just need to meet with her, and wouldn't that be great and cool? And I thought, okay, I don't know, sure, great, let's do this. And I went and I sat and I chatted with Lara and the past executive director, Rima Tavares. And it was such a natural conversation. It was so fabulous to be around such intelligent and impassioned women. And I just instantly knew that, yes, of course, I believe in this cause. And also I want to be around women like this. And so I came on as a project coordinator. At the time, Rima Tavares was the executive director. And I never left, because doing the work that we do, it's not stagnant. It changes. As we've already discussed, technology and the way that it impacts our life and is a part of our life changes annually. The world is technology focused, and more it gets brought into our lives. And STL has tried to evolve with that. And, we started out, as Laura said, giving out computers out of the back of her car. And we've shifted and altered how that looks, to laptops being mailed across the country, to hands-on tech camps, to pandemic. Okay, we can ship out laptops because people have to move to online learning. And the fact that we just remain ever evolving to the need is absolutely what has kept me here for as long as it has. I mean, in the nonprofit industry, there's a large turnover and large burnout rate, but it just doesn't feel like that. The digital divide and the need for groups like Sky's the Limit isn't going to go away. And it's something that will forever remain a passion of mine.
Wow. I think it's really, really interesting to hear how you going through it. And also, yeah, you're very right, how this is definitely part of our future, and I cannot see it going away, because there'll always be, I think, mentioned at the very beginning, the haves, the people who have it, and the people who don't have it. And I think the work that you're doing to try to bridge that is really, really amazing. Second question, what impact have you seen directly? So you talk about putting these computers in the hands, but is there any particular story that stood out to you that you want to talk about further? Or is it just, I know, the whole scope, like 5,000 computers, that is a lot.
Sure, I'll take the lead here. I mean, the impact that we see, so we just had our 20th anniversary. And Laura reached out and chatted with one of our 2000th recipient. And keep in mind, we've given out over 5,000, Brittany, and she wrote an amazing letter about how Sky's the Limit helped her when, you know, she was working so hard academically with these goals and having to stay behind and use the computer lab. And then getting this laptop really changed it for her. And I mean, think about the time frame of what year that would have been and where you'd have to go to still get internet access and kind of how that's moved. Tracking children isn't something that we're ever going to do, just, I mean, even from a privacy point of view, but knowing that the organizations that we partner with, looking at groups like VOLUTION or Pathways to Education, which it's estimated have increased the graduation rate by 35%. And knowing that we're a part of that, that's sort of the conversation that we have. It's not, you know, we tracked Tommy and Timmy and they've done this, or this. It's that overarching, here's our community partners, here's who they're serving, and here's how that population is better being affected. And so for me, the impact that I see is groups like VOLUTION thriving. It's, you know, estimations on graduation rates increasing. It's those sort of things, and getting wonderful letters and the conversations that we have and the pictures that we get. And we get little cards and notes. And we always tell people, you don't need to have pictures of faces. This isn't a requirement. It's not why we do it, but they still send it because to them, you know, it is life-changing.
For sure. Laura, would you want to add anything?
Sure. There's this old statistic that I heard way back, right, in the formative years of Sky's the Limit, that if you give a computer to a kid in a neighborhood, for instance, Regent Park, where we started working, Sky's the Limit, that you impact that student's entire sphere of influence, which could be up to 30 people. Family members, caregivers living in the home, siblings, cousins, friends, neighbors, right? And, you know, I don't know exactly, I don't think there's a way to figure that out now. And I know there's more access to technology in certain neighborhoods, but certainly at that time, we really felt that impact because we were working with Pathways and delivering 100, 200 computers to kids who lived in one specific area, and, you know, uplifting individual students, their sphere of influence up to, you know, these 30 people in an entire community. So it really felt like we were onto something and affecting real change. And, you know, when it's 4 o'clock and you're walking home from school in the winter and it's already pitch black out, and now you need to go to the library to get online to complete an assignment. And then 2 hours later, you're walking home and it's pitch black out and it's 6 o'clock at night and it's the winter and all of the things, just to be able to provide that service as well for our students too, just in terms of convenience, right? So high school is already hard enough. And then on top of that, you know, a challenge for a lot. And then on top of that, the physical challenges of having to physically go somewhere to access technology, to be able to have it in the home. And Also, all sorts of things were starting to come up online. And as we know now, a lot of services that you need to access, you can only access them online. But to be able to just not have to take a day off work or a couple of days off work to work your way through a process of receiving a document or a form or some permit or whatever you needed for your business or your, a personal document, to be able to do that online is also very, very beneficial. So there's the macro and the micro, like bringing it all the way down to how it's impacting individual families in their household. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Add to what you said, Laura, especially in the pandemic. I mean, you could only fill out forms typically online, rental applications, job applications, and I mean, and also the social cue of being able to connect. But
yeah, I will say in the pandemic, as a student specifically, and I have 2 younger siblings, and when everything switched online, we had to make sure, like, scramble to go find computers so that all of us could do our work. I remember we borrowed one from my dad's friend or something, just so that we could all be able to even complete our assignments. And that was not even with the problem of everyone being online at the same time, because my parents are also teachers, which means they have to teach their students and give that sort of information. So yeah, technology, specifically during the pandemic, was kind of, I think, a big, I'm struggling for the word here, but something big to kind of overcome for everyone involved. So for Kira and Sana, what is something that you created using technology that you're proud of?
I'll go first. Something that first pops into my head, actually. On my second year at the Summing Up program, Sana was actually my coach for this. We got to build a website for a small business, and that was something that we had built on Replit. And I've been using Replit, if you know, that's where you can put all your code and kind of see how everything works out for your website. And I had never really learned how to fuel that website to actually make it work. I had kind of like built stuff before where like it looks like a website, but you can't click a button and actually go somewhere. And that was the first time where I was just like, I was having difficulty with how to route my buttons to do something or how to change the color or the font to something. But we ended up branding and creating this entire website that just looked really nice and was efficient and could work with a Shopify backend server. And just being able to do that was probably my proudest technology moment. And Sana helped me a lot in that. So
I love that you mentioned it, because that was my first stemming up here and I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember DMing Sana a billion times, asking if she would just meet with me and please explain this one concept that made absolutely no sense. But I just you brought it up because I think at that time you're also a leader within the group, just because it was your second year and you're obviously a lot more confident than most other people.
No, it's something that you just end up learning. Like everyone is struggling just at a different level.
It's not anything. I would ask specifically about your time at Shopify, just because I feel like that's something I'd want to hear more about.
Yeah, honestly, wait, I just want to say one thing. Kira and Hannah, like I barely had to do anything for the team. Like they were like running like a well-oiled machine. Like they had the branding down, they had everything down, and me and the other coaches kind of came in. We were like, the girls have it down. But I had a lot of fun during that time too. Yeah, specifically at my time at Shopify, one of the coolest things that I could do that I did was actually when I was working on the shop app that we have. So that's basically a marketplace. All of our merchants are on there, and it used to be just tracking apps. You could just track your orders, but now you can actually shop on there. So one of the coolest things that I did was like my team was totally revamping the merchant page. And I was still pretty new to the whole like realm of mobile, but we worked on it for like 2 months straight. And it was pretty cool to get to work with like designers, product managers, backend developers. And at the end of the 2 months, I basically could just like pull up on my phone and like show my parents and be like, look, like this is what I do. This is what being a software developer means. Because my parents always ask me what I do, but then I try to explain it, and then they're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Also, there was another thing that I did a couple of years ago as part of a fellowship. I was working with this company called Commonlit, who helps out with schools and providing curriculums. Specifically, they wanted to make a mobile app for students in Latin America to access Spanish literature offline. So that's something that I worked on, and I worked on it with a couple people from America, and it was honestly one of the coolest things that I did, just because once we finished that, it kind of got shipped and people were able to use it offline. So that's kind of also my example of how I help with the digital divide.
It's really, really cool. So just again for Kira and Sana, what inspired you to study technology university and specifically computer science? Because I know Sana went to Carleton and Kira is going to go study at York. Sana, would you want to start?
Oh yeah, sure. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it was definitely the STEMming program that inspired me to study technology in university. Specifically choosing computer science over software engineering. I did struggle with it because I was like, could get the iron ring of the software engineering, but also the physics aspect of it. It was definitely the dev degree program that pushed me towards the computer science side, but also the algorithms and learning how to make things fast and accessible for people was what drew me to computer science specifically. Yeah.
For me personally, I think like when I first discovered computer science, I just found it to be so powerful, like malleable. You can do stuff from the comfort of your home, but you can also make a lot of change in terms of building things that people might need. But something that definitely like made me drive to go into computer science was once again VOLUTION and all the programs and dev degree being able to make things extremely accessible. And that's something that I also appreciated because I have an older sibling and she's in the healthcare aspect of things. And I always observed how the healthcare industry, the people working there were treated differently than people who are working in the technology industry. And I just realized that in the technological space, there were efforts to kind of gap the divide of whether inequity or in terms of laptops, because I've experienced that before too, of getting a new laptop, and that difference between looking at the healthcare industry and seeing like, the only appreciation they will ever get is, in the middle of the pandemic, right? So definitely something like that where it's like, you feel appreciated doing something in technology, but also that you feel unique and you feel like you're deserving of being there. That's something that definitely helped me.
Wow, okay. I've never really thought about the differences because I've also thought about pursuing health sciences mostly because of the opportunities that can come from it. But I'm now leaning more towards technology and engineering. But I've never really thought about how they've kind of treated the different inequities in their sectors. So thank you. Going back to Laura and Caroline, what drives your passion? I know this is kind of leading back to what you talked about earlier, but kind of seeing the divide, especially with women. But is there any kind of key moments or something that fuels you to keep working hard to just give these laptops to these marginalized youth? Laura, do you want to start?
Well, the gap, unfortunately, continues to widen, and the pandemic only sped it up. So there's a lot more work to do. Yeah, so I would say that fire is still lit because the need has not been met. It's frustrating that, it just keeps getting, it's like a chasm that just keeps getting deeper and deeper. But it does drive that passion to enable youth and to get them the access to the online resources that they deserve. So I think that if anything, I feel like the passion, certainly with people who volunteer their time, like our board of directors, our cheerleaders, people who are in our world, they all get it. They all have always understood the role that we play and what we're trying to do. And post-pandemic, they're like, wow, okay, it's a great thing that you guys are here. And people who may not have known that Sky's the Limit exists and now finding out that we've been around for 20 years serving this need after going through the pandemic and all of the media exposure about the lack of technology and, you know, the learn at home. Is that what it was called again? Learn at home, the mandate.
Virtual learning, I think it was.
Yeah, the learning at home mandate in Ontario in March 2020. Is that right? Yeah, it's just part of the ethos now. People know about the digital divide. So it's harnessing that passion. It's harnessing that passion into fundraising dollars to enable us to keep operating and get the technology out to the kids. Yeah, that's what fuels the passion for sure.
I think it definitely ties back into sort of what I said earlier about the world just becoming more and more technology focused. And if that weren't the case and the government was just providing technology as it provides or claims to provide safe shelter or etc., then there wouldn't be the need that there is to remind people that the more focused and reliant on technology we become, the more we need to provide access to it for people. Because I mean, I remember in the pandemic talking to a family, I would just say pretty privileged family, and they were saying, wow, that was so hard because online school was all day. So all our laptops were tied up. Like I can totally see it. We needed more. We were even thinking about getting another one because we had to have all our kids and ourselves. And you're sort of sitting there at that moment and saying, now imagine you had 0 laptops and you have 2 kids that need to be on their online learning all day, and you have yourself. And, you know, it really did, as Laura said, it highlighted it, but the response wasn't sort of, you know, our politicians, our government saying, wow, that sure did highlight our digital divide. Let's work to change that. It just went back to life as normal. And let's hope that there's nonprofits that will dedicate their time and energy to advocating for this cause and fundraising for this cause. And herein lies sort of that issue. So that's my passion. The fact that after such a monumental and life-altering moment like the pandemic, to shine a light on this massive divide, and then for people to sort of afterwards be like, okay, well, anyway, that was crazy. Back to it now we go, without any changes, without any acknowledgement of our privilege or roles. And that sort of sums up who I am as a human, but also in my passion to advocate for this and the importance of sky's the limit, and why I'm not going anywhere from sky's the limit, and why sky's the limit's not going anywhere.
And if I can just add to that, exactly what Caroline said, this organization, when I kind of manifested it to serve this need, it had an expiry date. I didn't know if that was 10 years or 15 years, but I thought this is something that I'll do for a short period of time to fill this gap, while, of course, the government, of course, there will be systems in place to serve youth. Of course, we won't let them continue to slip through the cracks. Of course, technology is going to get less and less expensive. And it's actually the opposite. The technology now is not as robust as the some of the tech that we were buying several years ago, and it's more expensive, right? So that's the part that is, I find really frustrating, is that here we are 20 years later, the need is so much greater than when we started it. And like Caroline said, we look around and go, who's helping us solve this problem? We're here to do the work. Sometimes it just kind of feels like we're just out here doing it on our own, and it shouldn't be that way.
I'm not sure what happened with Hannah. I think she dropped off, but while she comes in, I would like to actually say a couple of words and kind of to add to what was said earlier. For us at VOLUTION, when I met Caroline, to be honest with you, I worked in the nonprofit sector for many years before I started VOLUTION. Then I started VOLUTION, and I never thought that this access to laptops, it's such a, okay, can you hear me? Yes. So I didn't think that the access to laptop would be an issue, because we live in Canada. You know, I come from another country that was not necessarily access to things. So I thought we live in Canada, so everyone would have a laptop. And then when we had a program, and literally 100% of the participants, our program was technology based. They will learn how to build a website, start a business plan, and do a couple of things in regards to technology. With our, just come up with your laptop and we'll show you, we'll teach you. And people showed up with a phone, and they needed access to Wi-Fi to be able to access the internet and do the work. And when I started speaking on it, I was really grateful to meet organizations like SDL, because you guys were you helped us, even though it was at the end of the program. And I said, even though we finished the program, we're done with this, but what I'm really passionate about is, can I offer the laptops to the participants so at least they can have it? Because another thing that is happening out there, there's organizations that would have a computer lab, so to speak, and like 50% of the computers don't work. And then students will have to sign up for the computer to use it. And they never have the chance to do it because the school finishes at 3:30. They have to run because the organization closes at 5. So they literally have about an hour to do some homework, and on a computer that are not working. And they will have to go to the library where they only have access to a laptop for half an hour. And we live in Canada, where we think we're a privileged country. And when I learned about this issue, at that point, it was 1 in 4 Ontario households would not have a computer at home. And I would speak about it, I would talk about it, and while I felt frustrated, people with that, that's not a big issue, because who doesn't have a laptop? And now the pandemic came through, and this it was all over the news, and everybody talking about how, kids don't have laptops, and the schools would take forever to send them laptops, and the kids have missed school because they couldn't access, and you will be a family that will only have one laptop at home. They'll have to do the work, they'll have to do the schoolwork, they'll have to do this. So with us at VOLUTION, we experienced that. We're very grateful to have partners like Sky's the Limit, and also a partner with Shopify, because when we started the partnership with them, we learned then that this is something that is needed. Offering us laptop, we said, we have this program, we need laptops. So we are able to actually donate laptops to the students. And another thing that is super interesting, because with the demographic that we work with, a lot of people think that because we work with the so-called underserved. So our goal is to change the whole landscape for STEM. Everyone that generally doesn't have access, we want to provide that access. So, it's just, we are able, because we have offered a laptop. So we offer laptops from Sky's the Limit. We offer laptops from Shopify, and participants were able to go to post-secondary to finish a university degree. They were able to apply for scholarships. They were able to get other programs that were already available, and they could use it. But then with the pandemic, now people are starting to feel like, oh, wow, that actually is an issue. So unfortunately, I think you're right, what you said earlier, that, this is more than ever needed to have access to tools, the digital tools, to be able for our next generation to be able to, have access to the actual education that they need to get into the so-called future of work. So I want to thank you all for doing the work that you do, because without you, we'll not be able to do what we're doing. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Starna. I just have another question for Gira and Sana, that in terms of the future, what do you hope to see in terms of gender equality and representation in the technology industry? As Sana mentioned, she's working at Shopify, and Gira will be working at Shopify while she does a dev degree program. So you guys are both definitely heavily involved in the technology industry, and I don't know, growing in your career in that way.
Yeah, I think definitely I'd love to see more women in the directors and also senior leadership. I feel like it's really important to have their voices, and mainly other voices as well, just to make bigger decisions. I think especially being in infrastructure, and also being on different teams at Shopify, I've seen how the different like gender ratio is in every team, like in design and front end, like I've definitely seen a lot more women. In infrastructure, I've definitely seen a lot more men. Like my team itself, there's 3 women across 30 people, which is a very small number. I would love to see definitely like more female leaders, and having those voices is super important.
Yeah, I definitely was gonna have the exact same answer where it was like, we can have, more gender equality and equity going into the STEM sector and people in technology, but it's being the driving force as well while you're there, while you're at it, right? Being in a leadership position or being able to have a say in whatever you're going into. So once again, seeing them in leadership positions where, getting the perspective of someone who might be a woman to change something in the technology sector that might not see it the same way as someone else would. And that representation and equity, which I think is super important in terms of technology and stuff like that. That's something I just want to see, more leadership positions with equality.
I think it's very important to hear those voices, and why I'm so happy to be part of an organization like VOLUTION, where of course through join I hear very outspoken and really kind of hammering home the idea of fair representation, especially in STEM, and just to have role models like you guys who have been able to learn from, just amazing for me. And as a last question before the Q&A, and just before I thank some people, in 30 seconds, so I'll have a little timer open. What do you think the audience should do to help bridge the digital divide, as we mentioned today, or to make a positive impact through technology? Anyone want to start? So
Sure, I'll go. I don't mind. I think it's really, there's a couple of very straightforward things that they can do is to support financially and in other ways that they can support that are appropriate, support organizations like Sky's the Limit that are providing technology, and support our program partners that are delivering the programming around it. If you want to change the future, you have to invest in the future. So that would be the main thing for me.
Yeah, being cognizant of how much technology is in your life and thinking about what it would be like if you didn't have that technology in your life. And then that ties it right back into what Laura is saying, to think, okay, so who is providing that? Who is in my community making that difference where, maybe I can reach out, volunteer, like Laura said, I can teach at a camp, I can see what there is that I can do, and just shifting your thinking rather than that kind of, technology really should just be a right and not a privilege, and changing your thinking around that.
Cool. Yara, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. For someone, if you do have technology, I started cracking the code at the age of 15 or 14, where I just taught people how to code online throughout the pandemic. So all it takes is, just making a free website with Wix, seeing a problem that you want to tackle, and just try to make a small, even if the smallest difference in the world, just go at it and try to figure out what you can do for it. And, hopefully something works out for there.
Cool. And Sunil?
Just wanted to echo Laura and Caroline and Gara, what they said. But also definitely volunteer with these kinds of organizations, learn about the digital divide and what you can do to help. Also leverage your network, definitely social media is super important these days to kind of get connected with people. So using that to bring these kind of events to light, and also just organizations. So definitely echoing what everyone else said.
Perfect. So just before, again, we head on to the Q&A, before Joan's going to say something short. Thank you so much to our program sponsors, Sky's Limit, as they're here today with us, Matrix 660, and General Motors Canada. Joanna, anything?
Oh, I already spoke when the technology was wonderful when you worked, and but I filled that gap. But I also wanted to end by saying thank you so much to everyone for being here. This really is important work, what we all are doing, and we really couldn't do it without you. The you know, you're amazing, sky's the limit. And our partners, it's great that, you know, we're able to actually do this work because we really are able to make great impact. And for that, I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much for having us on. And Hannah, what a fabulous panel. And you're an incredibly impressive young lady.
Thank you so much. I just echoing Joanna, just before everyone leaves, there is still more. If you have any questions for our 4 panelists or for me or Joanna, we're going to stop the recording in just a second, and you can ask, and you can ask either in the chat or by unmuting yourself. But again, just wanted to echo everyone else. And for those who are watching the recording, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned something.